Hi, welcome back. Now we're going to learn about the different categories of exceptional children. They include intellectual differences, sensory issues, communication differences, behavioral differences, multiple and severe handicapping conditions, and physical differences. Let's talk a little bit about intellectual differences. Intellectual differences has to do with the student's ability to manage their cognitive behaviors. That includes learners who are both superior and slower than the norm when learning. These include the gifted program, learning disabilities, mental retardation, and other issues that have to do with the processing of cognition or knowledge. Next are the communication differences. Communication differences have to do with learners whose disabilities include difficulties in acquiring speech and language skills, as well as social and emotional skills. These are students who could have a learning disability because they have trouble processing the information that is taught to them, or they could be a child who has an articulation issue and they need to practice working with their different sounds. And finally, they could be children who are on the spectrum. Those children have trouble when they are frustrated or overwhelmed in social situations. Their emotions become the better of them, and their ability to process and problem solve tend to diminish. Next, we're going to talk about sensory differences. Sensory differences has to do with students who have auditory or visual discrepancies or disabilities in their ability to work with information or content. This could be a student who is simply hard of hearing, or it could be a child who is completely deaf, as well as children who are visually impaired could include those children who have trouble seeing or have what would be considered legal blindness, all the way to those children who are blind. Next, behavioral differences have to do with learners who are emotionally or socially maladjusted, and these behaviors then interfere with their learning. These children tend to be children who cannot process on a non-emotional level. So these children would be children who may, if they have emotional issues, be children who have a diagnosis of a mental illness, or they may be socially maladjusted, which means that these are children who may be children who are arsonists, children who have been abused when they were younger, and that those interfere with their day-to-day functioning. Next, the multiple and severe handicapping conditions can include diagnoses such as cerebral palsy, mental retardation, deaf, blind, or a combination. Not all children who have cerebral palsy are mentally retarded. Yet, there are a group of children who have cerebral palsy and also have mental retardation. You can have children who have a diagnosis of being blind or deaf, or being deaf-blind. In addition, you could have children who are deaf who also have mental retardation, or blind who also have mental retardation. It's important to be able to identify which of these are severe, which of these are multiple, and which are considered to be the most important or the primary disability. Finally, the physical differences has to do with non-sensory impairments. These are issues that do not impede student learning but impede student mobility. So you could have a child who may be intellectually intact but may be in a wheelchair or unable to control certain bodily functions and need assistance in that area.